I've never wanted to really mix. We do sort of mix within our places,
Mm-hmm.
but when I'm in the theatre,
Mm-hmm.
you know, people say, "Why don't you mix?" And you know, and I like to sit. And obviously, this is a small room. The rooms we're mixing are about the size of cinemas, and I like to sit right in the middle
Mm-hmm.
between the dialogue and the effects. Now, we actually mix all the effects all the way through. The way we work now, then, so in the old days,
sub mixes.
we're mixing. Yeah, so basically, all the panning, all the mixes is gradually done as the film's laid with all the team, and then we put it together. And then one of my, because Niv, who works for me, we decided about 10, 11 years ago we wanted to mix around. I didn't want to go in and have another effects mixer, who, not because I didn't trust them, don't get me wrong, but it's a new way of working for me, that it was someone that's mixing, because you're sort of mixing it as you go, someone that's been on it for 7 or 8 months, and then we go in, it was better for me than having someone that's just turned up for the last 3 weeks. Because I was finding it very frustrating, because you know, what's that? But that doesn't occur now, because we take from Sound 24, we take all the sound design and the mix, and we sort of mix it on a desk like this to start with, and then we take it into the big room. So by the time we get into the theatre, the main theatre to mix, we have a mix, which then is a brilliant place to be, is to then make the film. Yeah. Or do the music or tell the story, but so that we're not always doing it, and by doing it that way, we can, you know, edit a bit longer, do the prep longer.
If I understand it right, you basically solve all the technical detailed problems, and when you come into the mixing stage, the big one, you really focus on the storytelling and the emotions.
That's what we like to do. Is that so that. Okay. We, you know, obviously a premix in there, but we try and get films in a way today, you know, with obviously Niv and my resident Ben and everybody in LM, and we sort of mix. We set it out, you know, whatever format we're doing, 7151. We have multiple, you know, like buses on you know, areas of it, where each one is. So each time we're editing, we're panning at the same time. You know, it's so you're panning it. You're panning it and you're sort of leveling it as you go, and then when we've got a little mix suite that we mix in. We did so that we're basically we're constantly building the film as a soundtrack, not just editing. It's the way that we work, and this is the way we work, is that we're working in a way that we're always sort of trying to keep a fluent mix running through the whole process, from when we start sound designing and editing, which are basically sound design and sound editing are part of the same thing, you know. I mean, because it's creating sound, you know, however which way you do it, and sometimes so that's a process that's ongoing, and we carry that through. We might do a temp mix, and then we carry that data, you know, from through, and so we tend to keep it in the, you know, we obviously in Pro Tools we work at the minute, but whoever says whatever it was before, you know, we keep it in there until we get to the final. Then we'll probably go for the big desk when all the cuts. It's just it's a quicker, more efficient way of working. I mean, to me, that is whatever way we can get to a point where we don't have to keep breaking it up, and we can complete. I think the good thing about these days is that you're able to keep adding and subtracting, you know, on a film, because you're learning with it. You're learning it a bit more. Especially with visual effects, they come. So when you do the first, and I'm diverting here, but with sound, in today's the big films, there's a lot of CGI in them. So when you first get the first cut, not all the pictures there. So what you're tending to do is put more sound in to tell the story of what's happening. And the great thing about that, after, when you get the CGIs or the more pictures in, you don't need so much sound to tell the story, and you don't want it. And then you're able to free the film up a little bit. Because I think, I mean, in my personal opinion, I like films that are quite very clean, and, you know, even when they're rough and ready, there's some shape and there's some dynamics in it. You're not trying to put sound on everything. Because that's another thing when you're younger. Everyone puts this, I see that car there, there's one over there, there's a tree, there was a bird there, there's that one there. And basically people are putting sound in. If anyone's listening to this, when young guys, they put it in, and I get guys in, and they go, right, can we come in and I want to show you what I can do. And I go, yeah, of course, yeah. And you come in and they go, you know, they've got, my God, yeah, it's like, it's everywhere. And, you know, and I have to wind myself back to when I was young, and that's what you if you're working for somebody, you think, oh, I better impress them. It's about, you do more, you keep doing more, and the longer you're going on in the job, it's not about that. It's really about why do you need it? Is it there? Why is it there? Is it serving a purpose, or is it taking it away from the actor, or what else is happening at that moment? Or is it helping you to pull focus on something, or is that there pulling you away from what it should be? And I think that's when you learn about sound more and more, is why it's there for, what you're trying to do with it.
Could I just briefly come back to panning? With, you mentioned Dolby, what is it called?
Atmos.
Dolby Atmos. That's the next step from 7.5.1, 7.1 or whatever.
And then still,
panning means placing the sounds
within
in the space,
in their environment.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the tension between the screen and this 3D space? Yeah, that's directors sometimes get very nervous to be distracted if people.
They do. I mean, I think you have to have a film, and you have to. That's what I'm saying. You have to do it for a reason, and I think Dolby Atmos is fantastic. I mean, it has great abilities. Basically, it has one of the. I mean, you don't have to do all that. I mean, object-based mixing, and the Atmos with all the overheads and all the surrounds, and it has bass management in the surrounds. Now, to me, that is one of the. Even if you mixed like in a normal way, that gives you a nice warmth and quality in the back. And I remember when I was doing my things with Dolby, saying, well, even if you just a little I don't know, talky period piece, where most of it takes place on the screen, but you have a beautiful score. Having it in Dolby Atmos is going to make it better because of the sound, because of the warmth that you can get, and the separation if you want it. But you don't. I think the danger of it is that you can do too much, and like you say, you can pull it away and make it too fancy, and that's. I think if anything I think it's anything I talked about before about putting sound in it, is that you've got to do it for a reason, that you either want someone to go with that, or it has it's impactive, or whatever. You know, and when we did it for Gravity, the great thing with Gravity, you were in the centre of the film, so the Atmos was ideal for that film, because you were in it and things were floating around you. Like the two of them at one point, they were going around each other, so you were in the middle of that film, and so you were sort of like, you put yourself in there, and it was perfect for that. And I think everything is about, if you feel it distracting you from what you're looking at, you're doing it wrong. And I think that's and sometimes you don't know until you've done it. That's what I'm saying. You break it, it's brilliant, but it's too fancy. Now we've got a film and we've got a sound design, symphony going up halfway up here, which is just not working for it, because that's what I'm saying. As soon as it distracts you, if it's part of you, like a storm, it goes, it hits you over your head and you duck and you feel it going over your head. That's how you feel. It works perfectly and it's brilliant for it, But if you just use it for a gimmick, I mean, I can remember back in, when was it, 25 years ago, when we went to Dolby Digital, full discrete mixing. It was about 25 years ago, wasn't it? And I can remember then when we were working, and before we were doing sort of like SVO 2-track mixing, and the only time you went to a multi-channel, which if you went 6-track on a 70mm print or something, which is very rare for a Premiere or something like that. So, and then I can remember this coming, and everybody was putting, like, people talking out the left, the door would open there, and there was complaints in the cinema. I can remember it was complaining. They're like, people were in the cinema, like, and looking round and looking that way, and getting distracted, and they were finding it distracting. So I think it's like one of the things, you get a brand new toy, and you use it all the time, and then you realise what you can use it for.
I like the word sound design symphony. That's a good expression.
Yeah.
So you have done many science fiction, action and horror films.
Yeah.
If you is that easier to do than sort of subtle things where you can, what you earlier described as sort of a period film where you can create a subtle atmosphere which adds a bit of extra emotion here and there?
I think sometimes the quiet ones are very difficult, because I think you're always exposed. So everything you do is super exposed. So if it's wrong, it's wrong. Do you know what I mean? It's like it just doesn't fit. And obviously in the quiet ones, you want sound, you want this, but you want tension. You want the tension of sound, but sometimes you want it to be there but not there, and that's a difficult thing, to do. I mean, they're all different, and they're all say not or difficult, but there's a different approach to each film, you know, and you know, I do sometimes. Crikey, you know, you've got to really think about it, because you just don't want to put it on. We did a film with Mark Romanek called Never Let Me Go, and written by Alex Garland as well, who did actually, we just done Ex Machina for him just recently, and it is about the silences, and the silence and the quietness of places is part of it, because it's the awkwardness, it's how it makes you feel uncomfortable, and how you manage that. You manage it because you have an idea, but you manage it by how it's making you feel as you do the film, you know. Like it may be a clock, but what clock is it? Is it annoying you, or is it doing something, or is it there and then it disappears? And why is it, you know? And then you bring it back at a certain time, and it's like Atmospheres of Winds. It's those sort of films. It's the same thing. You have a sound, but then you sort of, you know, secretly makes it disappear, and you don't. Then you're left with this uncomfortableness. You think, and then sometimes it might appear at the end of the scene again, you know. And it's finding a way through it to make it feel like it. And they are difficult, because a lot of people go into a mix and it's quiet, so they think we've got to fill it up again, you know. And that is one thing. If age gives you, it gives you the confidence not to put it in. And I think that's where you know, and that's what you want. And some of those films are amazing when they're quiet, you know.
Absolutely, yeah. And you probably have enough clout now that you can say that to a famous director.
I mean, I think it's another thing, when you've done them and you've been there and you've seen it and you've learned, because you're always learning, and you really only, I think you can go to uni, you can go to college, and you can learn stuff, or you can learn, but the real test is working on these different projects and seeing why it works, because it's only the proof of the pudding when you do it, and you talk about it, you know, and they are going to listen to you now, because you have, it's like having a builder around your house. Look, he's built that brilliantly, and a young guy comes in, you trust people, don't you, because they've been there, and so you do. That's why you employ half in the first place, because you know. And I love doing dynamic films. I love it when we sit down at the end of it and you look at it and you've actually been brave, but it's actually paid off, you know. Because people say, "Oh, that's mate, you know, that film, whatever it was, 127 hours, you quiet, you did this, that, and the other." And I remember one director said, "But you know, at the time, I would have been scared to do it, you know, to go that bold or that quiet or that for so long sometimes." But then it's looking at the whole film, but you have to have confidence in your own film to do that.
It's about contrast, timing.
Yeah.
Pacing.
It's where you want to get to. That's what I'm saying. If one of the great things that I always try and do is, when I'm talking to, you know, when we, you know, as a team effort, so let's try and get through the mix first time quickly. Let's not get held up. And I can, luckily now in my position, I can say that now. Let's go. Let's do it a reel a day, or let's get it through. I said, because the only time we know when we really got it together is watching it as a film, how the audience will watch it. And then you watch it, and then you realise, because sometimes you get held up, you know, it's about the curve and the arc of the film that's important.
I noticed that with composers who use these modern multi-track tools, you almost have too much choice, and it can slowly immensely down, and you make a mix here and then say, well, if I tweak this, maybe that's better, but it's not much better. Hardly anyone, and you get drawn into the detail.
You can get lost within the devil, you know, with nothing sometimes, you know, and it actually means nothing. You've been mucking about something, you think, well, that's 1/24 of a second we're talking about here, you know. When you run the film in 2 weeks' time, you're not even going to notice that, because the important part you want to get to is there, that, it's, you know, or whatever it is, you know. And that, I think sometimes technology, you know, the limitless amount of data you can hold within a system now. You know, like you can put like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 terabytes on your machine. You can have multiple, and you can just keep overlaying and laying. Now, it has advantages, because obviously we virtual mix all the way through now, so we keep everything live right until the depth, so you can get it any tiny little bit. But the films can be well overlaid, and they can be, same like you say with scores, they can be overdone too many times, too many layers, and that does happen. It doesn't mean, I'm not knocking any composers, because we do the same. You've got that, and we talked about a little bit earlier, the clarity of it goes. And the only way you're going to get clarity is by having spaces. Is like everything, If you put another fader in there and another fader in there, they might move, but it looks a mess and it's uncomfortable. And films are like that. If you fill in every gap, or sound design and music trying to do the same things, that's another thing that you've really got to look at.
Yeah, that's my next question. Over the period of your working life, did you notice any shift of the balance between sound design and sound editing and the use of music?
Yeah, but since we've had the digital, we've always been. Sometimes films cross over. To be honest with you, okay. When we did a film with Danny, like Sunshine, we did a film, and sometimes people think that it's the music and it's the sound design that goes into the other. But what you've got to be aware of, and the great thing is when you start, if you're working with sort of a score and the demos of the score all the way through, and you're talking to the composer, so you're basically working that out as you go. So you're not both working, like that on Sunshine with John Murphy and Underworld. We knew, what they were doing, we knew what we were doing, and we were working together. And if they come up something with some tonal thing, and then we had it in, sci-fi in a spaceship, we would remove it or we would mute it, because you don't need two things doing the same job bouncing on top of each other. Interesting that when we did, say with the composer with Dario, we had Dario's score as well, and like he said, he felt it's been pushed, but we wanted to push him to the wall, and there's a part of it, there's a big part of Storm in there, and he'd scored it, and you couldn't have the music and the storm. No. And at the end of the day, what was the main thing that was going to give you the emotion of the film? Because it's not like a Hollywood bang, 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 bang. It was the storm. The storm had to be it, because this is what caused the damage. So basically, when the music went out, when the storm had died down and you felt emotional, we would bring the music back in, because you'd had enough of the wind then, and you wanted to fill them, so that they both had their jobs. And as it turned out, it was difficult to get to that point, because obviously at the beginning, when Dario started, he was scoring the film, and we hadn't done our job. There's a few little wind tracks in there, so he was scoring it, and he was scoring everything, because it's. You look at it, it's fantastic. You go up a mountain, and it's beautiful music. He's done a fantastic job, but there are points that and he admitted himself that. Like he said to me today, "You've won this one. You've won that battle, man. And you can have that one." But it wasn't a battle. It was just that it was the time to use it. You have to decide why, especially in a film that's true. You've got to get the best. What is the best thing? What is the best for that time? Is it the effects leading the music, or is the music leading the effects, or is it one or the other? Normally, we get to those points. It's sometimes one or the other. You know what I mean? So on the big sequences. Otherwise, sometimes it's a difficult one. When it gets really busy in music.
Well, I noticed, especially in recent TV series from America and from Denmark, and the amount of very subtle sound design and also using soundscapes and has replaced a lot of music.
Yeah.
And for example, in Breaking Bad, the title music is 17 seconds long, and then the rest is done by clever sound design. Yeah. It's amazing.
No, I think
that really gets you into the place.
I think it depends on the subject matter and what it is, but sometimes it's, if you want to be raw, you want to be in there. In those type of programs, and that music takes you out of it, because it takes you back and looking on. Because your normal life wouldn't happen like that. So if you're trying to get there, sometimes just the quality, just the sound around you, and the performances and everything is what you need. People are moving, people are getting braver with it as well. But at one point, certain films, I think sometimes music used to be like a Band-Aid plaster. I think that's not knocking music. Don't get me wrong, because you had to do it. But it was like something that sometimes people use music or some films that it's there to hide it, or it's there to think they're glued together, or you haven't quite got it. So it's a driving thing. It came from the MTV situation. We want to hear music. People are getting braver now. We get a lot of people come in, directors and things are changing that. They don't want it. They want a less is more a lot of the time. Can we use? Where can we lose it? Because we want to get into into the reality of the scene. So that it is changing like that.
Also the high definition sound, where you hear the tiniest details, and with perfect microphones picking it up, and you can play around with much more than even 40 years ago.
Yeah, it was different now, because one of the processes of mixing back when I first started was that you as a sound design editor, you would gather all the tracks and it would be on magnetic stop. It would come off like Nagra tape onto another magnetic stop, and it would gather on its process all this background muck, really, hiss. So a lot of the mixing was used to clean up individually clean up those tracks one by one, so that you could get it as clean as you can. Now, from a sound design purpose and even recording purpose, you don't get that surface noise, you don't get that noise, so that a lot of that you don't have to do anymore. So like you say, there's really intricate things can sound beautiful because they don't have that little edge to get some, because you can never get a sound that quiet because there'd be too much, the noise level behind it would be louder than that, So that's made it better for people to create these, these quiet moments with, say, if it's a little bit of ice on the window, ice cracking on your window there, or a tiny little curtain flapping over there, and to create this mood of where you're sitting or something like that. You can do it because we have the wherewithal and the quality, like you said, the actual quality of the sound is there to be able to use to do that. It's like